The vast, sleek vessel of the Crixan scout ship glided silently through the void of space, its onboard sensors sweeping the cosmos for any sign of life or activity. After weeks of traversing the uncharted reaches of this sector, the small reconnaissance team was beginning to lose hope of finding anything of interest. That was, until their scanners detected faint readings emanating from a previously uncharted planet. "Captain, we've detected a Class M planet in the outer system," reported the ship's science officer, her tentacles twitching with anticipation. "Atmosphere, temperature, and gravitational readings all fall within habitable parameters for biological life." The Crixan captain, Xyloth, narrowed his 6 eyes thoughtfully. "Interesting. Has there been any sign of advanced technological development?" "Initial scans show a diverse biosphere, but no indications of artificial structures or emissions consistent with a spacefaring civilization," the science officer replied. "However, there are numerous settlements scattered across the planet's surface, suggesting the presence of some form of intelligent life." Xyloth stroked his chin contemplatively. "Deploy a cloaked reconnaissance drone to further investigate this primitive species. I want to know everything about them, their level of technology, military capabilities, social structure, and potential threat level. We must understand what we're dealing with before making contact." "Yes, Captain," the science officer acknowledged, relaying the orders to the drone operators. Soon, the small, uncrewed craft was dispatched, its advanced stealth systems rendering it virtually invisible as it descended into the planet's atmosphere. The drone's high-resolution sensors and quantum cameras began transmitting a steady stream of data back to the Crixan scout ship, painting a detailed picture of this mysterious new world. What the Crixan encountered was both perplexing and, to their eyes, somewhat underwhelming. The dominant life forms on the planet, which the reconnaissance drone had identified as humans, appeared to be bipedal creatures of moderate size and strength, with rudimentary tool-making capabilities. Their settlements were primitive, consisting of simple dwellings constructed from natural materials, and their forms of transportation were limited to basic wheeled vehicles and domesticated animals. "This is the supposedly advanced species that caught our attention." Xyloth scoffed, his upper lip curling in disdain as he observed the drone's findings. "They seem utterly incapable of posing any threat to the Crixan Empire. We should have no trouble integrating them into our domain." The science officer hesitated, her tentacles twitching nervously. "Perhaps we should proceed with caution, Captain. These humans may possess hidden capabilities that our initial scans did not detect." Xyloth waved a dismissive claw. "Nonsense. Look at them. They're barely out of the Stone Age. Whatever potential you think you see is merely an illusion. We will establish a covert presence on this planet and begin the process of assimilation. The humans will become loyal subjects of the Crixan Empire, whether they like it or not." With that, the captain issued a series of commands, and the scout ship began maneuvering into a stable orbit around the human-inhabited world. Teams of Crixan agents were dispatched to the surface, tasked with quietly infiltrating human society and setting the stage for the eventual integration of this primitive species into the galactic fold. Little did the Crixan know, their arrogant assumptions about the humans were about to be shattered in ways they could scarcely imagine. Down on the surface of the planet, Dr. Jessica Anderson, a brilliant young scientist, was working late in her laboratory, oblivious to the impending arrival of her new Crixan neighbors. Her keen mind was focused on her latest project, an ambitious attempt to unlock the secrets of humanity's ancient past, a task that had consumed her for years. As Jessica pored over the delicate centuries-old artifacts in her care, a faint shimmer in the air near the laboratory's entrance caught her eye. Furrowing her brow, she approached the disturbance cautiously, her hand instinctively reaching for the stun baton secured at her waist. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice firm and confident. "This is a restricted facility. Identify yourself, or I'll be forced to take action." To her surprise, the shimmering distortion rapidly coalesced into the form of a tall, strange-looking humanoid creature, a Crixan scout, its cloaking field deactivated. The alien's 6 eyes widened in apparent shock at being detected, and it raised its clawed hands in a placating gesture. "Peace, human," the Crixin said in surprisingly fluent English. "We mean you no harm. I am merely conducting a routine survey of your primitive world." Jessica's grip on the stunned Batlon tightened, her mind racing as she took in the alien's bizarre appearance. Primitive world. I'll have you know that humanity has a long and proud history, with countless achievements that would no doubt impress the likes of you. The Crixin scout tilted its head slightly, a gesture that Jessica interpreted as curiosity. "Is that so? Then perhaps you can enlighten me, human. What are these achievements that you speak of?" Jessica's eyes narrowed as she contemplated her response. This alien intruder had clearly underestimated the capabilities of her species, and she wasn't about to let that stand. Taking a deep breath, she launched into an impassioned defense of humanity's history and potential. "Where do I even begin?" she said, a spark of defiance in her voice. "Humanity has harnessed the power of fire, developed complex tools and technologies, built sprawling cities, and even ventured into the stars. We've made groundbreaking discoveries in science, medicine, and philosophy that have transformed our world, and we're just getting started." The Crixin scout regarded her silently for a moment, its 6 eyes blinking in what Jessica could have sworn was a display of confusion. Impressive for a supposedly primitive species, it conceded, a hint of uncertainty in its tone. "However, your achievements pale in comparison to the might of the Crixin Empire. You would do well to." Jessica didn't let the alien finish. "The Crixin Empire," she interrupted, a wry smile spreading across her face. "I'm afraid you have much to learn about the true nature of humanity. We may have been overlooked in the past, but I can assure you, we are far more than you could ever imagine." With that, she turned on her heel and strode back to her workstation, leaving the bewildered Crixin scout alone in the dimly lit laboratory. Little did the alien realize that this chance encounter had just set in motion a series of events that would forever change the course of both human and Crixin history. The bewildered Crixin scout hurried back to the cloaked ship, its mind racing with the unexpected encounter. The human female, Jessica Anderson, had spoken with such passion and conviction about the achievements of her species that it had momentarily shaken the scout's confidence in the Crixin's assessment of these primitive beings. As the scout relayed the details of the encounter to Captain Siloth, the Crixin commander's reaction was one of dismissive irritation. "Bah, the humans' boasts are nothing more than the posturing of a backward, undeveloped race," Siloth scoffed, his tentacles twitching in annoyance. "She knows nothing of the true power and technological superiority of the Crixin Empire. We will continue with our plans to integrate this planet into our domain, whether the humans like it or not." The science officer hesitated, her own doubts beginning to resurface. "But Captain, perhaps we should reconsider our approach." The human female seemed quite confident in her species' capabilities. "What if there is more to them than we initially assumed?" Siloth fixed the science officer with a stern glare, his 6 eyes narrowing. "Your hesitation is unbecoming, Gylera. The Crixin Empire does not cower in the face of primitive civilizations. We will proceed as planned, and any resistance from the humans will be swiftly crushed." Sensing that further argument would be futile, Gylera simply nodded and returned to her duties, relaying Siloth's orders to the teams of Crixin agents already deployed on the surface. Over the following weeks, the Crixin infiltrators blended seamlessly into human society, adopting their customs and mannerisms with ease. They established covert bases of operation, gathered intelligence, and laid the groundwork for the eventual assimilation of Earth into the Crixin Empire. Meanwhile, Dr. Jessica Anderson continued her research, driven by a growing sense of unease about the mysterious visitors she had encountered in her laboratory. Something about their presence, their arrogance, and their apparent underestimation of humanity gnawed at her, fueling a burning desire to uncover the truth. Late one night, as Jessica pored over ancient texts and archaeological findings, a startling realization began to dawn on her. The clues had been there all along, hidden in plain sight. The similarities between human mythology and the Crixans' own claims of galactic dominance, the curious lack of any verifiable historical records predating the Crixans' supposed golden age. It can't be, Jessica whispered, her hands trembling as she pieced together the evidence. Could it be that the Crixan are not the true elder species? That humanity has been the dominant force in the galaxy all along. Driven by this newfound conviction, Jessica began to meticulously document her findings, cross-referencing ancient texts and artifacts to build a comprehensive case. She knew that her conclusions would be met with skepticism, if not outright derision, from the scientific community. But the stakes were too high to ignore the truth, no matter how inconvenient it might be. As Jessica's investigation progressed, the Crixan agents continued to blend seamlessly into human society, carefully monitoring the populace and gathering intelligence. They were particularly intrigued by the activities of Dr. Anderson, whose work had been flagged as a potential threat to the Crixans' plans. This human female seems to be digging deeper into our history than we anticipated, Jylera reported to Captain Zyloth during a cover transmission. Her research could uncover the truth about our species' origins and the extent of humanity's ancient legacy. Zyloth's tentacles twitched in annoyance. Then we must put an end to her meddling before she can expose our deception. Dispatch a team to neutralize her and secure any evidence she has uncovered. The humans must not be allowed to interfere with our plans. Jylera hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. Captain, are you certain this is the wisest course of action? Eliminating the human could draw unwanted attention and spur further resistance. Zyloth's eyes narrowed dangerously. I will not entertain further questions or doubts, Jylera. The humans are nothing more than a nuisance to be eradicated, should they prove troublesome. Now, carry out my orders, or I will find someone more obedient to do so. Swallowing her misgivings, Jylera relayed the instructions to the Crixan infiltration teams, setting in motion a plan that would bring Dr. Jessica Anderson and her human allies into a direct confrontation with the arrogant Crixan invaders. Little did the Crixan know, however, that their underestimation of humanity's potential would soon be their undoing. As Jessica continued her research, her findings became increasingly unsettling. The more she delved into the ancient records and artifacts, the more convinced she became that humanity's role in the galaxy had been deliberately obscured, buried under layers of Crixan propaganda and revisionist history. This can't be, she muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the latest piece of evidence. If what I'm seeing is true, then the Crixan Empire has been lying to us all along. Humanity. We are the true elder species, the rightful guardians of the galaxy. With a newfound sense of purpose, Jessica began to carefully compile her findings, determined to uncover the truth and expose the Crixans' deception, no matter the cost. Little did she know that her actions were about to set in motion a chain of events that would forever change the course of human and alien history. In the days that followed, Dr. Jessica Anderson's research into the true origins of humanity and the Crixan Empire's deception intensified. She pored over ancient texts, deciphered cryptic archaeological findings, and carefully mapped out the connections between human mythology and the Crixans' historical claims. As the evidence mounted, Jessica's conviction only grew stronger. The Crixan had not only hidden humanity's rightful place as the dominant species in the galaxy, but they had also systematically suppressed any knowledge or remnants of this ancient legacy. It's all right here in front of me, Jessica murmured, her brow furrowed in concentration as she studied the intricate web of clues. The Crixan claimed to have discovered the wonders of interstellar travel and advanced technology, but the truth is, they merely built upon the foundations laid by our ancestors. Humanity has been the true elder species all along. Across the globe, the Crixan infiltration teams continued their covert operations, carefully monitoring the human population and gathering intelligence. However, they could not help but notice subtle shifts in the behavior and capabilities of the very primitives they had so easily dismissed. In one instance, a Crixin agent observed a group of human engineers designing and constructing a complex hydroelectric power plant, a feat of engineering that rivaled anything the Crixin had seen on their own worlds. The agent's 6 eyes narrowed in contemplation as he relayed the observations back to his superiors. The humans appear to be advancing at a rate faster than our initial projections suggested, the agent reported. Their ability to harness natural resources and convert them into usable forms of energy is quite remarkable, given their supposed technological limitations. Another Crixin operative, embedded within a human military research facility, watched with growing unease as a team of scientists and engineers successfully tested a prototype of a new long-range missile system, a weapon that possessed capabilities far beyond what the Crixin had anticipated. "This is troubling," the agent murmured, her tentacles twitching with a mixture of fascination and concern. If the humans can develop such destructive technology in such a short span of time, who knows what other advancements they may be capable of? Captain Zylov, however, remained steadfast in his dismissal of the humans' potential. When his subordinates presented their findings, he waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Impressive parlor tricks, nothing more," the Crixin commander scoffed. "The humans may have stumbled upon a few minor technological breakthroughs, but they are still centuries, if not millennia, behind the Crixin Empire. Their so-called potential is merely an illusion, a facade that will crumble once we assert our true dominance." Gilera, the science officer, shifted uncomfortably, her doubts still lingering. "But Captain, what if there is more to these humans than we've accounted for? Their ability to adapt and innovate seems to defy our initial assessments. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach, at least for the time being." Zylov's eyes narrowed dangerously, and he fixed Gilera with a stern glare. "I will not entertain such weakness, Gilera. The Crixin Empire does not yield to inferior civilizations, no matter how impressive their trivial accomplishments may seem. We will proceed with the integration of this planet, and any resistance will be met with swift and decisive action." Sensing that further argument would be futile, Gilera simply nodded, her tentacles drooping in resignation. She knew that Zylov's stubborn pride and unwavering belief in the Crixin's superiority would prevent him from seeing the truth, even as the evidence of humanity's hidden potential continued to mount. Meanwhile, Dr. Jessica Anderson's investigation had reached a critical juncture. She had pieced together a comprehensive timeline of human history, tracing it back thousands of years beyond the Crixin's claimed Golden Age. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been the dominant force in the galaxy long before the Crixin had even emerged as a spacefaring civilization. "This is it," Jessica murmured, her eyes alight with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. "The proof I've been searching for. Now, I just need to find a way to expose the Crixin's deception to the world." Unbeknownst to Jessica, the Crixin agents had been closely monitoring her activities, and they had already received orders from Captain Zylov to neutralize the troublesome human researcher. A team of infiltrators was dispatched to Jessica's laboratory, their mission to secure any evidence and eliminate the threat before it could be made public. As the Crixin operatives closed in, Jessica felt a sudden, inexplicable chill. Something was wrong. She could sense it in the air, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that set her nerves on edge. Slowly, she turned, her hand instinctively reaching for the stun baton at her waist. And there, in the shadows of her own laboratory, she saw the telltale shimmer of a Crixin cloaking field. "I know you're there," Jessica called out, her voice steady and resolute. "Show yourselves, and let's have this out in the open." The Crixin operatives, their cover blown, deactivated their cloaking devices, surrounding Jessica in a tight formation. Their clawed hands grasped an array of advanced alien weaponry, their 6 eyes gleaming with a cold, calculating purpose. Dr. Jessica Anderson, one of the Crixin agents, spoke, its voice eerily calm. You have meddled in affairs beyond your understanding for the last time. The Crixan Empire cannot afford to have your discoveries jeopardize our plans. It is time to eliminate the threat." Jessica's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to show any fear. She knew that what she had uncovered could change the course of human history, and she was willing to risk everything to ensure that the truth came to light. "Then come and get me, you arrogant, manipulative aliens," she challenged, her grip tightening on the stun baton as she prepared to make her stand. "I won't go down without a fight." The stage was set for a confrontation that would ultimately determine the fate of both humanity and the Crixan Empire. The tension in Dr. Jessica Anderson's laboratory was palpable as she faced off against the Crixan infiltrators, her grip tightening on the stun button she held in her hand. The alien invaders, their cloaking devices deactivated, surrounded her in a tight formation, their advanced weaponry gleaming menacingly. "So you've come to silence me, have you?" Jessica challenged, her voice laced with defiance. "Well, you're going to have to work a lot harder than that if you want to stop me from exposing the truth about your precious Crixan Empire." The lead Crixan agent, its 6 eyes narrowed, stepped forward. "You have meddled in affairs far beyond your understanding, human. The knowledge you possess poses a grave threat to the Crixan Empire, and we cannot allow it to be shared with the rest of your primitive species." Jessica's brow furrowed as she scanned the group of Crixan operatives. "Primitive, you say? Tell me, how does it feel to know that the primitives you've so arrogantly dismissed are on the verge of uncovering your centuries-old deception?" The agent's tentacles twitched, a hint of unease betraying its outward calm. "Deception. You speak of things you cannot possibly comprehend. The Crixan Empire is the rightful guardian of the galaxy, and we will not allow your kind to interfere with our plans." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I think I understand perfectly. You Crixan have been hiding the truth about humanity's ancient legacy, haven't you? You've been masquerading as the elder species, when in reality, it is we who have been the dominant force in the galaxy all along." The agent's grip on its weapon tightened, and Jessica could see the tension building among the other Crixan operatives. "Enough of this insolence," the agent hissed. "Your knowledge must be eliminated, along with any evidence you've uncovered. Prepare to meet your end, human." As the Crixan agent raised its weapon, a sudden commotion outside the laboratory drew everyone's attention. Shouts and the sounds of chaos echoed through the halls, and the Crixan operatives paused, their 6 eyes darting towards the door. Seizing the opportunity, Jessica launched herself at the nearest Crixan, swinging the stun button with all her might. The agent howled in pain as the electrical charge coursed through its body, and it collapsed to the floor, its weapon clattering to the ground. The other Crixan agents reacted quickly, but Jessica's unexpected attack had thrown them off balance. In the confusion, she managed to dash towards the door, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of the disturbance outside. As she emerged into the corridor, Jessica's eyes widened at the sight that greeted her. Humans, armed with an array of makeshift weapons and tools, were engaged in a fierce battle with Crixan infiltrators, their faces twisted with a mix of fear and determination. "What's going on?" Jessica cried, her voice barely audible over the din of the confrontation. A young man, his face streaked with grime, turned to her, his eyes burning with a newfound resolve. "Dr. Anderson, thank goodness you're all right. We've discovered the truth about these aliens. They're not what they seem. We have to stop them before they can complete their plans to subjugate our world." Jessica's mind raced as she tried to piece together what was happening. Had her research somehow been uncovered, sparking this unexpected uprising? Or had the humans discovered the Crixan's presence through other means? Before she could respond, the sound of a weapon discharging echoed through the hallway, and Jessica felt a searing pain in her shoulder. She whirled around to see the Crixan agent she had incapacitated, its weapon smoking and its 6 eyes glaring with a murderous intent. "You will not interfere any further, human," the agent growled, its tentacles coiling menacingly as it advanced. Jessica braced herself, the stun button held out in front of her, But she knew she was no match for the Crixen's superior strength and technology. As the agent raised its weapon for another shot, a blur of movement caught Jessica's eye, and a figure suddenly crashed into the Crixen, knocking it off balance. It was Jylura, the Crixen science officer, her tentacles wrapping around the agent's weapon as she wrestled for control. "Stop this madness, Gron," she cried, her voice laced with a mixture of desperation and determination. "Can't you see that the humans are not the primitive beings we've been led to believe? There is more to them than we ever imagined." Gron, the other agent, snarled in response. "Foolish Jylura. The Crixen Empire's superiority is absolute, and we will not be swayed by the false claims of these humans. They must be eradicated, for the good of our civilization." The two Crixen agents engaged in a fierce struggle, their claws and tentacles lashing out as they fought for control of the weapon. Jessica watched, transfixed, as the battle unfolded before her, the implications of what she was witnessing slowly dawning on her. "They're divided," she murmured, her mind racing. "The Crixen are not united in their assessment of humanity. There's a rift, a crack in their supposed unity." The sound of approaching footsteps drew Jessica's attention, and she turned to see a group of armed humans rushing towards her, led by the young man she had spoken to earlier. "Dr. Anderson, are you all right?" he asked, his eyes filled with concern as he took in the sight of the battling Crixen. Jessica nodded, wincing as the pain in her shoulder flared. "I'm fine, but we need to get out of here. The Crixen are not as united as they would have us believe. This could be our chance to turn the tide of this invasion." The young man's expression hardened with determination. "Then let's not waste it. We'll get you to safety, and then we'll rally the rest of the resistance. The Crixen may have underestimated us, but we're about to show them the true might of humanity." As the humans led Jessica to safety, the sounds of the ongoing battle between Jylura and Gron echoed through the corridors, a harbinger of the confrontation that was to come, a confrontation that would ultimately determine the fate of both humanity and the Crixen Empire. As the echoes of the battle between Jylura and Gron faded into the distance, Dr. Jessica Anderson was ushered to safety by the human resistance fighters. Her shoulder throbbed with pain from the Crixen agent's blaster shot, but she gritted her teeth, determined to push forward. "Where are we going?" she asked the young man who had come to her aid. "To our main resistance headquarters," he replied, his grip tightening on the makeshift weapon he carried. "We've been monitoring the Crixen's activities for some time now, ever since we started noticing strange occurrences and unexplained technological advancements." Jessica's eyes widened. "You mean you've known about the Crixen all along? How is that possible?" The young man's expression darkened. "We didn't know the full extent of their plans until recently, but when we started putting the pieces together, the sudden appearance of advanced visitors, the subtle changes in our society, we realized that something was very wrong. And then your research came to light, and we knew we had to act." Jessica nodded, her mind racing. "Then you must know the truth about humanity's ancient legacy, the one the Crixen have been hiding all this time." "Yes," the young man said, his voice laced with a mixture of wonder and determination. "We've seen the evidence, and we know that we are the true elder species, the rightful guardians of the galaxy, and we're not going to let the Crixen take that from us without a fight." As they reached the Resistance headquarters, Jessica was greeted by a team of scientists and engineers, all of whom had been working tirelessly to uncover the Crixen's plans and develop countermeasures. They pored over her research, their eyes widening with each new revelation. "This is incredible," one of the scientists exclaimed. "If what you've discovered is true, then everything we thought we knew about our history and our place in the cosmos is wrong." Jessica nodded, wincing as her injured shoulder throbbed. "It's the truth, I'm certain of it. And now we have to find a way to expose the Crixen's deception to the world." The resistance leaders exchanged troubled glances. "That may be easier said than done," one of them admitted. The Crixin have embedded themselves deeply within our society, and they have the technological and military might to crush any open rebellion. We'll need to tread carefully if we're to have any chance of success. Jessica's brow furrowed. But we can't just sit back and let them continue with their plans. We have to act, and act quickly, before they can solidify their hold on our world. The resistance leader placed a hand on Jessica's uninjured shoulder, his expression somber. We understand your urgency, Dr. Anderson, but we also know that we're outmatched in terms of raw power. If we're going to have any hope of defeating the Crixin, we need to be strategic, to play to our strengths. Jessica opened her mouth to protest, but the leader raised a hand, silencing her. Trust me, we're not giving up. We're just buying time, preparing, and waiting for the right moment to strike. Meanwhile, back on the Crixin scout ship, the confrontation between Jylera and Gron continued to rage. The two agents were locked in a fierce struggle, their claws and tentacles lashing out as they fought for control of the powerful blaster weapon. Stand down, Gron, Jylera cried, her tentacles coiling around the other agent's arm. Can't you see that the humans are not the mindless primitives we've been led to believe? They have a depth of potential that we've completely overlooked. Gron snarled, his 6 eyes narrowing with contempt. Foolish Jylera. The Crixin Empire's superiority is absolute. These humans are nothing more than a nuisance, a distraction from our rightful place as the dominant species in the galaxy. Jylera's grip tightened, her own doubts and misgivings bubbling to the surface. But what if we're wrong, Gron? What if the humans are the true elder species, and we've been living a lie all this time? Gron let out a harsh laugh, his tentacles lashing out and striking Jylera's face. Then it is a lie that has served the Crixin well for centuries. We will not let the ignorance of these humans undermine everything we've built. They must be crushed, no matter the cost. The two Crixin agents continued their furious battle, their clashing forms a testament to the growing rift within the once united empire. Captain Xylov, observing the confrontation from the safety of the scout ship, felt a twinge of unease. This is most troubling, he murmured, his tentacles twitching with a mixture of concern and irritation. Jylera's doubts are spreading, and Gron's blind adherence to our established doctrine is putting our entire operation at risk. Xylov paced the deck of the ship, his 6 eyes narrowed in deep thought. He had always been a firm believer in the Crixin Empire's superiority, but the recent events had shaken his confidence. The humans, with their unexpected displays of ingenuity and resilience, were proving to be more than just a minor annoyance. Perhaps, Xylov began, his voice barely above a whisper, perhaps we have been too quick to dismiss these primitives. Their potential may be greater than we ever imagined. The captain's tentacles stilled, and his expression hardened with resolve. No, I will not entertain such doubts. The Crixin Empire has endured for centuries, and we will not be brought down by the machinations of a few rebellious humans. Xylov turned to his communications officer, his voice firm and commanding. Dispatch reinforcements to the surface immediately. We must crush this human resistance before it has a chance to grow. The Crixin Empire will not be threatened by these upstarts. As the order was relayed, Xylov couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. The humans had proven to be more than just a simple distraction, and the growing rift within the Crixin ranks threatened to undermine everything they had worked to build. The captain knew that he was facing a critical crossroads, one that would ultimately determine the fate of both the Crixin Empire and humanity. As the Crixin reinforcements descended upon the human resistance stronghold, Dr. Jessica Anderson and the other leaders braced themselves for the impending confrontation. The air was thick with tension, and the sound of weapons being primed echoed through the halls. "They're coming," the young man who had rescued Jessica earlier said, his grip tightening on his makeshift weapon. "We've managed to hold them off so far, but I don't know how long we can keep this up." Jessica nodded, her mind racing as she tried to formulate a plan. "We need to find a way to buy more time, to delay their advance until we can figure out our next move. Any ideas?" The resistance leaders exchanged uneasy glances, their faces etched with concern. "We've been trying to reach out to the Crixin, to establish some kind of dialogue," one of them finally admitted. "But they've been unwilling to listen." Jessica's brow furrowed. "Unwilling to listen? What do you mean?" "They've made it clear that they see us as nothing more than a primitive inferior species," the leader explained, his voice tinged with frustration. "They've dismissed our attempts at negotiation and have instead chosen to respond with force." Jessica's eyes widened. "But surely they must realize that we've uncovered the truth about our ancient legacy, about their deception. Wouldn't that at least make them pause and reconsider their stance?" The leader shook his head grimly. They seemed to be in denial, unwilling to even entertain the possibility that they might be wrong. Their pride and arrogance are blinding them to the reality of the situation. Jessica's shoulders slumped, a sense of despair creeping into her heart. Then how can we possibly hope to reason with them? If they're unwilling to even listen, what chance do we have? Before the leader could respond, a commotion erupted outside, and the sound of a familiar voice reached their ears. "Humans, hear me." Jylera, the Crixin science officer, called out, her voice carrying an uncharacteristic note of urgency. "I come not as an enemy, but as an ally. I have information that could change the course of this conflict." The resistance fighters exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of how to proceed. Jessica, however, stepped forward, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Why should we trust you, Crixin?" she demanded. "Your kind have done nothing but lie and deceive us. How do we know this isn't just another ploy?" Jylera's tentacles twitched, and her 6 eyes conveyed a sense of genuine concern. "I understand your mistrust, human, but I assure you, my intentions are sincere. I have come to warn you of the danger you face, and to offer a path forward that may lead to a peaceful resolution." Jessica crossed her arms, her injured shoulders still throbbing. "I'm listening." Jylera's voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. "The Crixin Empire is divided, torn between those who wish to continue the deception and those who are willing to consider the possibility that you, the humans, may be the true elder species." Jessica's eyes widened, and she exchanged a startled glance with the resistance leaders. "Go on," she prompted, her curiosity piqued. "My colleague, Gron, and I have been at odds over this very issue," Jylera continued. "He is unwavering in his belief in the Crixin's superiority, while I have begun to doubt everything I've been taught." The Crixin science officer paused, her tentacles twitching with unease. "I have seen glimpses of your species' potential, human, and it has shaken the very foundations of my convictions. I believe that if we can find a way to work together, to uncover the truth, we may be able to avert a disastrous conflict." Jessica studied Jylera's face, searching for any signs of deception. But the Crixin's expression was one of genuine sincerity, her 6 eyes pleading for understanding. "Assuming I believe you," Jessica said slowly, "what exactly are you proposing?" Jylera's tentacles relaxed slightly. "I am proposing a temporary truce, a ceasefire that would allow us to open a dialogue, to share information and work towards a peaceful resolution. The alternative," her voice trailed off, and she glanced towards the sound of approaching Crixin forces. "The alternative is a war that neither of our species may survive." Jessica turned to the resistance leaders, her brow furrowed in deep thought. "What do you think? Can we trust her, or is this just another Crixin trick?" The young man who had rescued her earlier stepped forward, his expression solemn. "I don't know if we can trust her, Dr. Anderson, but I do know that we're outmatched, and if we continue to fight the Crixin head-on, we may not survive. This could be our only chance to find a peaceful solution." Jessica nodded, her mind made up. "Very well then. Jylera, we'll hear you out. But know this, if you betray us, there will be nowhere in this galaxy where you can hide from the wrath of humanity." Jylera dipped her head in acknowledgement. "Understood, human. I give you my word that I will do everything in my power to ensure that the truth is revealed, and that our 2 species can find a way to coexist as equals." As the Crixin science officer and the human resistance leaders began to negotiate the terms of their fragile truce, the sound of the approaching Crixin reinforcements grew ever closer, a tense and uncertain future looming on the horizon. The air was thick with tension as Dr. Jessica Anderson and the human resistance leaders sat across the table from Jailira, the Crixin science officer. Despite their deep-rooted mistrust of the alien invaders, they had reluctantly agreed to a temporary truce, recognizing that their only chance of survival lay in reaching some kind of understanding with the divided Crixin. "All right, Jailira," Jessica said, her voice calm and measured. "Let's start with what you know. What have you and your people been hiding from us all this time?" Jailira's tentacles twitched, and her 6 eyes conveyed a mixture of unease and determination. "The truth, human, is that the Crixin Empire has been built upon a foundation of lies and deception. We have long claimed to be the rightful guardians of the galaxy, the elder species that brought order and civilization to the cosmos. But that claim is false. It is you, the humans, who are the true elder race." The resistance leaders exchanged startled glances, their eyes widening with a mixture of shock and vindication. Jessica, however, remained composed, her gaze unwavering as she studied the Crixin's expression. "Go on," she prompted, her voice betraying no emotion. Jailira took a deep breath, her tentacles curling and uncurling as she spoke. "Our historical records, long hidden from the rest of the galaxy, reveal that the Crixin were a mere offshoot of an ancient human civilization that once spanned the stars. It was your ancestors who first developed the technologies that allowed for interstellar travel and the harnessing of energy on a galactic scale." The Crixin science officer paused, her eyes scanning the faces of the humans seated before her. But somewhere along the way, a group of Crixin broke away, seizing control of these technologies and rewriting history to suit their own ambitions. They suppressed the truth about humanity's rightful place as the dominant species, and instead presented themselves as the true masters of the cosmos. Jessica leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concentration. "And what about the evidence? Surely there must be records, artifacts, or other tangible proof of this ancient human legacy that you've uncovered." Jailira nodded solemnly. "Indeed there is. Our own archives, hidden from the general populace, contain a wealth of information. Texts, maps, and even relics that point to the existence of a vast human empire that predated the rise of the Crixin. But it is knowledge that has been carefully guarded, lest it undermine the very foundations of our civilization." The young man who had rescued Jessica earlier spoke up, his voice tinged with a mix of wonder and righteous indignation. "Then why keep this truth hidden? Why not share it with the rest of the galaxy to set the record straight?" Jailira's tentacles twitched, and her expression grew troubled. "Because, young human, the Crixin Empire is not united. There are those, like my colleague Gron, who are unwilling to accept the possibility that we have been living a lie. They see your species as a threat to be eliminated, and they will stop at nothing to ensure that the Crixin's dominance remains unchallenged." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "And where do you stand, Jailira? Are you truly willing to help us uncover the truth, even if it means jeopardizing everything the Crixin have built?" The Crixin science officer's gaze was resolute. "I have seen the potential of your kind, humans. I have witnessed the glimpses of your ancient greatness, and I can no longer deny the evidence that confronts me. I am willing to take that risk, to reveal the truth, even if it means the fall of the Crixin Empire as we know it." Jessica studied Jailira intently, searching for any sign of deception. Finally, she nodded, a spark of determination igniting in her eyes. "Very well, then. Let's get to work. We need to gather all the evidence, every scrap of information that can prove humanity's rightful place as the elder species in the galaxy. And then we need to find a way to share it with the rest of the Crixin Empire and the galaxy at large." The resistance leaders exchanged uncertain glances, but Jessica held up a hand, silencing their protests. "I know it's a risk, and I know we may be playing right into the hands of those who wish to see us destroyed. But if we don't take this chance, If we don't seize this opportunity to set the record straight, then we may never have another. The young man who had rescued Jessica earlier stepped forward, his expression resolute. Then we'll do it. We'll work with Jylera, and we'll uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As the group began to plan their next steps, the sounds of the approaching Crixan reinforcements grew ever louder, a constant reminder of the precarious position they found themselves in. But Jessica refused to be daunted, her mind racing with the implications of what they were about to uncover. The Crixan may have thought they could bury the truth forever, she murmured, her voice tinged with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. But they're about to learn that you can't keep the true elder species down for long. With a renewed sense of purpose, the human resistance and the Crixan science officer set to work, their fingers flying across keyboards as they pieced together the scattered fragments of humanity's ancient legacy. And as the information began to coalesce, a startling picture emerged, one that would shake the very foundations of the Crixan Empire and forever alter the course of history. Time was running out for the human resistance and their unexpected Crixan ally, Jylera. As they raced to uncover the definitive proof of humanity's ancient legacy, the sound of the approaching Crixan reinforcements grew ever louder, a constant reminder of the perilous situation they found themselves in. "We're running out of time," Jessica said, her brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the mountains of data and ancient artifacts they had managed to gather. "If we don't find a way to broadcast this information to the Crixan Empire soon, all of this will have been for nothing." Jylera's tentacles twitched with a mix of urgency and uncertainty. "I understand your haste, human, but we must be cautious. The Crixan forces loyal to Gron, and the old order will stop at nothing to silence us. We need to ensure that the truth we uncover reaches the right ears, or we risk sparking an even greater conflict." The young resistance leader who had rescued Jessica earlier stepped forward, his eyes alight with determination. "Then we need to find a way to get this information out there, to expose the Crixan's deception to the galaxy at large. Maybe there's a way we can broadcast it on all available channels, or even send it directly to the Crixan homeworld." Jessica nodded, her mind racing. "That's a good idea, but we'll need to be strategic about it. If we try to go public too soon, Gron and his followers will almost certainly try to intercept the transmission and silence us permanently." Jylera's 6 eyes narrowed as she considered the options. "Perhaps we could find a way to infiltrate the Crixan's own communication networks, to bypass their security measures, and ensure the truth reaches the highest levels of the Empire." "Can you do that?" Jessica asked, her voice tinged with a mixture of hope and skepticism. The Crixan science officer's tentacles twitched. "I believe so. As a member of the Crixan scientific elite, I have access to certain codes and protocols that could grant us the level of access we need, but it will be a delicate and dangerous operation, one that could cost us dearly if it fails." Jessica held Jylera's gaze, her expression resolute. "We don't have a choice. We have to take that risk for the sake of humanity and the entire galaxy. Can you get it done?" Jylera dipped her head in acknowledgement. "I will do everything in my power to ensure the truth is revealed, but you and your fellow humans must be ready to act quickly once the information is broadcast. The Crixan loyal to Gron will not take this lying down." "We'll be ready," the young resistance leader said, his grip tightening on his makeshift weapon. "We've got a few surprises of our own for those arrogant Crixan invaders." As Jylera set to work, Jessica and the human resistance leaders began to make final preparations for the crucial moment when the truth would be exposed. They knew that the stakes were high and that the consequences of failure would be devastating. But as they worked tirelessly, a sense of cautious optimism began to take root. The evidence they had uncovered was irrefutable. The Crixan Empire had built its foundation on a monstrous lie, and the time had come to set the record straight. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jylera's voice rang out, her tone laced with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. "It is done," she announced, her tentacles twitching with nervous energy. The truth about humanity's ancient legacy has been broadcast across the Crixan communication channels, reaching the highest levels of the Empire. Jessica felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. "And now we wait," she murmured, her eyes fixed on the horizon, where the Crixan reinforcements were steadily advancing. The moments that followed were tense and agonizing, as the human resistance and their Crixan ally braced themselves for the inevitable reaction. And then the first signs of chaos began to ripple through the Crixan forces. Confused orders, the sound of weapons discharging, and the sight of Crixan agents turning on one another. It was clear that Jylera's broadcast had struck a chord, shattering the carefully crafted illusion that the Crixan Empire had maintained for centuries. "It's working," the young resistance leader exclaimed, his eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "They're turning on each other." Jessica allowed herself a small smile, but she knew that the battle was far from over. "We can't let our guard down just yet. Gron and his loyalists will still be determined to silence us, no matter the cost." As if on cue, a massive Crixan warship emerged from the sky, its weapon systems powering up as it locked onto the human resistance stronghold. "Brace yourselves," Jessica shouted, her voice carrying a note of grim determination. "Here they come." The air erupted in a deafening barrage of weapons fire as the Crixan warship unleashed a devastating assault. But this time, the human resistance was prepared, their makeshift defenses and newly acquired Crixan technology holding their ground against the onslaught. Jylera, her tentacles weaving a complex pattern of commands, worked tirelessly to disrupt the warship's systems, her divided loyalties now firmly rooted in the cause of the humans. "You must hold out a little longer," the Crixan science officer cried, her voice strained with effort. "The truth is spreading, and I can sense the growing unrest within the Crixan ranks. Victory may yet be ours." Jessica and the resistance fighters gritted their teeth, pouring every ounce of their strength and determination into the battle. They knew that the fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance, and they refused to back down, even in the face of such overwhelming odds. As the conflict raged on, the skies above the planet erupted in a dazzling display of light and sound, a testament to the fragile alliance that had been forged between the humans and the divided Crixan. And in that moment, Jessica felt a surge of hope, knowing that the truth they had uncovered would forever change the course of history.